because we didn't define it, but the height's now changed as well because we've pulled it down with all this content. So, you know, these are sort of like absolute values that we actually take in, rather than, you know, what we've defined in style.css ourselves, because we know that the content could overflow and increase the height or the width of the div. So this is all well and good, but now let's go ahead and look at a practical example that we can use within our browser. Now, many browsers, when you display an image inside them, allow you to click on them and resize to, you know, a particular and give a particular, you know, image its actual size, or to fit inside the browser. So let's go ahead and take a look at an example of this. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of style.css. We don't need it anymore. In fact, actually, we'll need it a bit later on, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all of this as well. So I'm just going to include an image file onto the page, which is extremely large in size. That's berlin.jpg, and let's go ahead and look at this. So berlin.jpg. Okay, so you can see that the image is really large. Most browsers will give you the option to allow you to actually, you know, resize an image to the page width, particularly if you've just referenced it like berlin.jpg. Like that, it'll resize it for you. In actual fact, I'm wrong. This wouldn't let you resize an image because we've included it as an element on a page. So even more to the point, we can now start to resize this image, but this time we're going to get the window width and the window height and set the properties of this image to actually fit inside the window. So unsure why you might use this, but it's a lot more practical example than just returning to the user the height and the width of a particular element. Oh, and also, with regards to width and height, this doesn't have to just be divs or anything else. It can be things like text elements, like form elements, and, you know, you name it, paragraphs, anything. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a class, and this class is going to be called fit, just so we know that, you know, it fits this into the page. So inside style.css, I'm going to set some body properties, and this is just going to be margin 0 pixel, and this is just going to allow us to resize this into our page in its entirety. So now what we want to do is we want to automatically resize this class fit to the window height and the window height and the window width. So we'll get we'll call a var w height, which is the window height, and this is going to be equal to window instead of actually referencing a particular element or selecting a particular element, and that's going to be window.height. We'll create another variable window width, and we'll make this equal to window.width. So now we've got the width of the window itself. So this means the current window as you can see it. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and set this image style, the styling in style, not in style.css, but the CSS, you know, that applies to this class, and fit it inside the page. So let's go ahead and select the .fit class, and then we apply some CSS. We're going to need to do this in a moment just here, but for now we want to set the width or the height of the image to w height, and then we again use CSS, but this time we apply the width as w width. So now what's going to happen is when we refresh, this is going to be automatically resized to the size of the window, as you can see. So we've automatically resized this image to the size of the window, and if we were going to go ahead and sort of resize this window, we can do, and it will follow obviously the window width. Oh, well, it won't at the moment, but if we were to refresh, it would keep the same width and it would resize it accordingly. So let's resize that back outwards again. So obviously every time we actually resize the page, when we refresh, whatever size the actual window is currently, the user might have it maximized in their browser, or they might have it as a small document. This means that what we can actually do is accurately fit content to a window. And I don't just mean images, I mean things like divs. We can resize divs, use percentages to scale a div down, for example the main body of a document, etc., etc. So there's many uses for grabbing the height and the width in order to display it to a user. Now, one benefit of this might be for, say, mobile devices. If you had a mobile device with a large screen but not the size of a phone, for example a tablet, you might want to use the height and width to scale down a particular document in order for it to be viewable and not overlap. So, you know, you don't have to do this, but it's a more dynamic way to create things. But usually that would be handled by style.css. But, you know, why not use height and width to do this as well? It would probably make it a lot more, you know, fun and better. And also easier, and it does have a good way of working. So that's the height and width manipulation properties or styling properties by grabbing the height and width of any element, and we've seen here how we can assign an image size to the window width and height.